Hello students, welcome to E-Pathashala, and today I am happy to introduce myself. I am Dr. G.P. Jayanti, Research Director in Avinashalingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women. I have taught the biochemistry subject for 31 years, and now today we shall discuss about the minerals in human body and the interaction between them during the physiological functions. Minerals promote a strong linkage between the earth and human health. Osteoporosis, anemia, dizziness, blood pressure and other disorders are all associated with either mineral deficiency or overdoses or their impaired functions. The minerals in the body come from air, water and earth. The earth's crust has more than 100 elements. 8 of them form 98% of the crust: oxygen, silicon, aluminium, iron, calcium, magnesium, sodium and potassium. See students, our body has 6% of the minerals: calcium, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, sodium, chloride, magnesium and iron. Some minerals are present in trace amounts like fluorine and iodine, but their biological function is very significant. When we talk about the relation of nutrients, we mean the impact of one nutrient on the others, on the latter's bioavailability. Two important factors decide the bioavailability of a nutrient: their absorption and utilization. Absorption includes the process in which the particular nutrient moves from the intestinal lumen into the body for doing their specific function. Utilization means the transport of these nutrients after absorption to the different parts of the body, assimilation by the cells and conversion into biologically active forms. Mineral salts contribute to the structural functions involving the skeleton and soft tissues. They have regulatory functions including neuromuscular transmission, blood clotting, oxygen transport and enzymatic activity. They may impart either a positive effect or a negative effect acting separately, or the effect may be combined. Examples of positive effect include catalysis of enzyme actions, getting incorporated as important components in selected molecules to take part in biological functions, and as stimulants and cofactors. Examples of negative effects include inhibition of enzyme actions and interaction with other nutrients to prevent the normal biological processes. The presence or absence of a nutrient and their levels in a biological system decide their pattern of involvement in their action. An important nutrient required by the body along with carbohydrates, proteins, fats and vitamins are minerals. Minerals required in large amounts by the body for various functions are called macrominerals. They are different from trace elements which are required in smaller amounts. Calcium, phosphorus and magnesium are macrominerals. Now let us see the details about calcium. In the human body, calcium is the most abundant mineral. It constitutes 1.5 to 2% of the total body weight. In the body of an adult human, about 1200 gram of calcium is present. More than 99% of that amount is found in bones. A powerful mechanism operates to conserve calcium and to maintain constant cellular and extracellular concentrations. These functions are very important for the survival because severe dietary deficiency or abnormal losses of calcium from the body may lead to the demineralization of the bone to prevent even a small incidence of hypocalcemia, that is low plasma calcium. Bone acts as an important physiological tissue that acts as a source of calcium. Bones are required to maintain the normal plasma calcium levels. 50% of this is ionized and physiologically active. More amount of calcium in the diet is required during bone formation when intestinal absorption of calcium is impaired and when there are losses of calcium to the environment, example through increased renal excretion or lactation. When calcium is less in the diet during bone formation, there will be growth retardation and peak bone mass may not be obtained. If it is insufficient due to impaired intestinal absorption or when there are inordinate losses only at the expense of bone calcium, the serum concentration of calcium ion can be maintained at normal levels. Calcium is involved in the function and structural integrity of bones, teeth, clotting of blood, muscles and nerves. It helps in the prevention of osteoporosis. The body removes calcium from the bones in order to maintain the levels of calcium in other parts in case when calcium intake is less. Vitamin D accelerates the absorption of calcium from the gastrointestinal tract. If a large amount of potassium is consumed, it will reduce the urinary excretion of calcium as it competes with calcium for the absorption by the kidney tubules. Large amount of calcium intake may lead to increased excretion of urinary calcium. Certain dietary fibers in foods like wheat and oats may interfere with calcium bioavailability in the body and delay the time of absorption of calcium. The dietary fiber stimulates the multiplication of friendly bacteria in the gut. They bind to the available calcium and make it unavailable for absorption. Also, oxalic acid and phytic acid in the food decrease the absorption of calcium. Calcium decreases the absorption of iron in the bone and also non-heme iron. Magnesium and calcium compete with each other for absorption in the intestine. Therefore, calcium and magnesium supplementation should not take place together. Calcium and magnesium may be considered as two sides of a coin, and hence supplements high in calcium and low in magnesium may not do much good to the system. Calcium should be balanced by magnesium. Otherwise, it may harm the cells and may cause a wide range of diseases. Most Americans do not prefer magnesium. Therefore, the 2:1 ratio calcium to magnesium will be sufficient for them. Earlier, importance was given to calcium phosphorus ratio, especially for infants. This may be related to rapid growth of children but may not apply to the adults because the nutrients will not be converted to tissue mass when calcium is to phosphorus is close to 1.5:1. Low intake of calcium in the diet, which occurs commonly, is associated with age-related osteoporosis. A dietary deficiency of phosphorus is unlikely due to its wide distribution in foods. The mean population intake of magnesium is slightly below the recommended dietary allowance, which may not represent a health hazard. Next, we shall see about magnesium. Magnesium is the fourth most important positively charged ion in the body and is the second more abundant intracellular cation next to potassium. The human body has about 25 grams of magnesium, approximately 50 to 60% of which is found in bone. Magnesium is related to potassium and helps in the regulation of the movement of potassium in and out of the cells. The dietary sources of magnesium may include whole grains, nuts and leafy vegetables. In presence of magnesium, the citrates, glycinates and gluconates are well absorbed and oxides and carbonates are not. Magnesium hydroxide is used to make antacids. A balance of calcium to magnesium in a supplement has been about 3:1 or 2:1. There are too many variables that determine a mineral ratio for every one: organ health, infections if any, use of drugs, kidney and gut condition, and even hormonal factors. Magnesium is believed to convert vitamin D into its active form and thus indirectly helps calcium absorption. Of the total body magnesium, 60 to 65% is found in the bone and 27% is located in muscles. Magnesium is next to potassium as the most predominant cation within the cells. It is essential both for the functions of many enzyme systems and transmission of neuromuscular activities. Calcium balance reflects the degree to which coupling of bone formation and resorption are balanced. Negative calcium balance indicates that bone resorption exceeds formation. Positive balances indicates the opposite. In contrast to cellular processes in bone, calcium, phosphorus and magnesium play a more passive role in any mass changes that may take place in the bone. They must be present at physiological concentrations in extracellular fluids for bone mineralization, that is formation, to occur frequently. Dietary minerals contribute to this physiological state by helping to replace minerals that have been lost in the urine, feces, sweat. Hypomagnesemia. Severe hypomagnesemia was reported to cause hypocalcemia, low blood potassium changes in mental status, seizures, anorexia and weakness. The association between reduced calcium intake and hypertension cannot be clearly explained. There is a consistent inverse association between magnesium intake and blood pressure. Dietary phosphorus, protein and fiber each have potentially deleterious effects on calcium economy. Their individual and joint effects on calcium balance need to be determined in people such as the elderly who have decreased the ability to produce 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, and in those such as adolescents who need to be in positive calcium balance. Next is phosphorus. In addition to calcium, phosphorus is essential for calcification of bones. The rest of the body phosphorus is required in soft tissues as a cofactor in enzyme systems needed for the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins and lipids. Phosphorus contributes to the metabolic potential as it is a constituent of high energy compounds. The phosphate ions also play an important role in the maintenance of acid-base balance in the body. The human body needs phosphorus. In the cells, phosphorus exists as phosphate. In the bone, it is present as hydroxyapatite. Phosphorus is present in phospholipids that make up the cell membrane and in other compounds. It provides energy as adenosine triphosphate. Phosphorus is absorbed in the small intestine. An amount of phosphorus is taken by the kidneys. Increased intake of phosphorus as phosphoric acid occurs during consumption of soft drinks. Phosphate additives in a variety of foods are the topics of current issues on human health. When phosphorus is removed in large amount in the urine, it will impair the acid-base balance in the body. high phosphate level in the body reduces the formation of the active form of vitamin D, that is calcitriol, in the kidneys and reduces blood levels of calcium. Only adequate calcium and magnesium in the diet can make up for this loss during bone mineralization. Phosphorus is an important mineral, a component essential for living things. Phosphorus is present in most foods, mainly animal products. In plant seeds, namely beans, nuts and grains, phosphorus is present in a storage form called phytic acid. Only 50% of this is bioavailable to humans, as the enzyme required to utilize phytate are absent in the human system. Sometimes high levels may lead to toxicity, as in the case of oral administration of phosphate containing laxatives prior to a colonoscopy. Too much consumption of protein, for example, in the Western world could threaten calcium-magnesium-phosphorus equilibrium. High levels of phosphorus in the diet are found to increase bone loss, that is taken care of by calcium balance. High protein intake is found to increase the renal excretion of calcium, but this effect was decreased if high calcium in the diet is accompanied by high protein. Dietary fiber is found to chelate calcium and other minerals in the gastrointestinal tract. High fiber diets may increase the risk of bone loss and osteoporotic fracture, as it causes calcium deficiency. Dietary calcium was found to play a role in the regulation of blood pressure. Phosphate binding antacids like aluminum hydroxide gels, even at low doses, can cause phosphate depletion and urinary calcium excretion. Researchers found an inverse association between intakes of calcium, potassium, protein and milk. Hypophosphatemia is an important medical disorder, as in acute alcoholism during the withdrawal phase. A factor associated with this is lack of phosphorus in the diet. The major clinical manifestation of chronic moderate hypophosphatemia is a defective bone mineralization similar to osteomalacia. Calcium and phosphorus. Researchers at the National Institute of Health had established that calcium phosphate is present in collagen that adds strength and hardness to the framework. Excessive dietary phosphorus. An increase in phosphorus uptake seemed to affect calcium balance regardless of the calcium intake. Urinary calcium seemed to vary inversely with dietary phosphorus. This implied that fecal calcium excretion must have varied directly with dietary phosphorus because there was no change in calcium balance. Thus, it could be proved that changes in phosphorus intake by normal adult human have important effects on calcium metabolism, that is, decreased intestinal calcium absorption and decreased renal excretion of calcium. The kidney is found to play an important role in this mechanism. An increase in dietary phosphorus might adversely influence calcium economy in people whose kidneys have a limited capacity to produce 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, or in those who need to be in positive calcium balance, such as in pregnancy and lactation. Phosphorus levels determine the plasma concentration of dihydroxycholecalciferol in children with moderate renal insufficiency. The influence of phosphorus through diet on calcium and bone metabolism is not well recorded. This may be the cause for the age-related bone loss in humans. Next in the list are copper and zinc. Copper and zinc are antagonists. In the body, there should be a balance between them. Both copper and zinc act opposite to one another. Both zinc toxicity and copper toxicity are highly harmful. In earlier times, it was observed that if there was copper toxicity, there was also zinc deficiency. Today, people are very cautious and they take supplements without noting the labels. Both minerals play important roles in the body. Copper is required for blood vessel formation, for strengthening the heart, and for stabilizing collagen. Copper is also necessary for brain development and for the communication between nerve cells in the brain. Copper acts as a cofactor to a number of enzymes involved in energy production by the mitochondria. It helps in the synthesis of the enzyme superoxide dismutase that helps to get rid of reactive oxygen species, that is free radicals. Copper is found in most of the food sources. Therefore, copper deficiency is a rare condition. Copper is present in large amount in meat, shellfish, nuts and seeds, followed by mushrooms, lentils, shredded wheat and chocolates. Copper is present only in trace amounts in infants fed cow's milk. Anemia and decreased white blood cell count are the symptoms of copper deficiency. Very high doses of vitamin C is found to interfere with copper, and increased zinc levels have proved to be the cause of copper deprivation. If the level of zinc in medicines given for various ailments exceeds 40 mg, then it leads to copper deficiency. Zinc is essential for the synthesis of steroid hormones, mainly as a catalyst for testosterone and luteinizing hormone synthesis. The prostate contains the highest concentration of zinc. Zinc acts as the cofactor for many enzymes and helps in their action. It is responsible for the structural integrity of the cell membrane. Zinc fingers are transcription factors that bind to DNA and influence specific genes. In such a structure, zinc establishes strong linkage with other elements in the biomolecules. Zinc improves the bioavailability of folic acid. The human immune system relies mostly on zinc and other minerals like selenium and iron for its function. Deficiency in one of these causes a lack of the other. Very high doses of one mineral can knock another one out of the ring. A good balance in the levels of copper and zinc is essential. Exposure to other metals, especially to lead that is present in contaminated groundwater, toys and paints, and iron present in food supplement may result in the inhibition of intestinal absorption of both zinc and copper through competition for transport molecules located in the gut. Wilson's disease is associated with copper metabolism and is found to require zinc therapy. Next is iron. Vitamin C increases the absorption of iron from the plant sources. Copper supports iron metabolism. Presence of copper is required for the transport of iron. Iron deficiency anemia is found to be associated with copper deficiency. Vitamin A helps in the improvement of the status of iron. The presence of malic acid and citric acid in the stomach is responsible for the increased acidity of that environment, accounting for the iron status. There is better absorption of plant iron in the presence of animal food containing heme iron. Sodium. Sodium helps in maintaining the supply of vitamin A, C and glutathione in the body. Sodium is required for the activation of the enzyme glutathione peroxidase that cannot function without the presence of selenium. Both iron and copper deficiency increases the risk of selenium deficiency. The process of transport of sodium and potassium ions across the cell membrane is an active transport process involving the hydrolysis of ATP to provide the necessary energy. It involves the enzyme sodium potassium ATPase, and sodium and potassium ions are pumped in the opposite directions across the membrane, building up a chemical and electrical gradient for each. These gradients can be used to drive other transport processes. In nerve cells, the pump is used to generate gradients of both sodium and potassium ions. The sodium and potassium pump across the membranes also help to maintain the electrical charge inside the cell. This is important to muscle and nerve cells. Chloride shift, also known as hamburger shift or hamburger phenomenon, named after Hertog Jakob Hamburger, is a process which occurs in a cardiovascular system. There is an exchange of bicarbonate and chloride across the membrane of red blood cells. Chromium. The foods rich in simple sugars increase the urinary excretion of chromium. Diets rich in whole grains also decrease the absorption of chromium because grains have phytic acid. This binds to chromium and form an insoluble complex and thereby reduces the absorption of chromium. Ascorbic acid also increases the absorption of chromium. Fluoride. Teeth and bones have high levels of fluorine that works with calcium and prevent tooth decay. Manganese. High dose of manganese inhibits the absorption of iron, copper and zinc. Alternatively, increased intake of magnesium, calcium, phosphorus, iron, copper and zinc inhibit the absorption of manganese. Manganese is also present in the bone. Manganese controls the action of nearly 300 enzymes. It is important in the control of calcium and potassium levels. About 70% of your body's iron is found in the red blood cells of your blood called hemoglobin and in muscle cells called myoglobin. Hemoglobin is essential for transferring oxygen in the blood from the lungs to the tissues. Myoglobin in muscle cells accepts, stores, transports and releases oxygen. Iron helps red blood cells transport oxygen from the lungs to cells all over the body. Once the oxygen is delivered, iron is used to carry carbon dioxide waste back to the lungs to be exhaled. Iron also plays a role in many essential chemical reactions in the body. Thus, students, in this module on interactions of minerals, we discussed the main functions of selected macromolecules like calcium, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, etc. and also certain microminerals like fluorine and iodine, and also we discussed about their interactions in promoting certain biological processes taking place in the body like sodium potassium pump, how the tissues are involved in the exchange of the ions, membrane transport, and how the kidney handles the levels of sodium and potassium and helps in maintaining their concentration inside the cells and outside the cells, which are required to maintain certain gradients across the membranes, and these help in the promotion of important physiological functions like exchange of gases, exchange of fluids, transport of blood across the various parts of the body. And we see that apart from carbohydrates, proteins and lipids, these minerals are also very essential, and they have to be provided through the diet or through some other sources, because they have to be maintained at a particular level in the body, and there should not be toxicity levels of the minerals and also deficiency levels of the minerals, because they will give some characteristic pathological conditions which will be difficult to be tackled. Thank you.